Welcome to Bits About Books, the home for conversations with authors of breakthrough books on sales, marketing, and business. Founders, entrepreneurs, and individual professionals, we all need to keep track of ideas that are helping create our today and tomorrow. Bits About Books will strive to find those books and speak to their authors, go behind the scenes and understand what inspired the authors to write the books that they did and how they went about doing so. Through our conversations, we hope to gain insights that will help us to get the most out of our efforts. I'm your host Shubhanjan Sarkar, founder of PitchLink, the next generation buyer-seller engagement platform where our mission is to make buying easy.
Welcome to Bits About Books. Thank you for your time and for joining us in this session. I have a favor to ask. While you continue to listen to the podcast, please leave a comment or rating at iTunes or wherever else you get your podcasts from. I personally look at each comment and will give you a shout out to each of you in our following episodes. It means a lot to hear from you. Our guest today is Gretchen Gordon, and we speak with her about her bestseller, The Happy Sales Manager. Drive sales, lead your team with ease, and have fun.
In my preferred structure, the sales manager does not continue to be the rainmaker, does not continue to have their own quota. So I am a firm believer that you have to be focused on selling or you got to be focused on managing, because they are two very different skills. But frequently the reason the sales manager fails is because they can't or won't change their mindset around that.
Gretchen Gordon, a self-proclaimed sales nerd, is far from your ordinary sales expert. After a disastrous Girl Scout cookie selling experience and a P&G sales gig that left her questioning her career choice in sales, Gretchen decided to face her fears head-on. With a lot of grit and determination, she transformed herself into an award-winning salesperson and was soon promoted to sales manager. Initially proud, she quickly became frustrated and overwhelmed as she felt ill-equipped to perform as a manager. Fortunately, she channeled her inner sales nerd to learn the secrets to successful sales management. Now, after nearly 40 years in and around sales, having studied the science associated with success, and after helping hundreds of sales managers grow out of their frustration and stress, Gretchen is determined to create an army of happy sales managers. She wrote The Happy Sales Manager to make it easier for the many people who find themselves leading a sales team but feel overwhelmed and underqualified, as she once did. Gretchen leads a team of sales experts at her company Braveheart Sales with a mission to cultivate sales organizations so sellers can sell and leaders can lead. A sought-after keynote speaker, she focuses on the skill set and mindset of sales and sales leadership. When she is not changing the sales world, Gretchen is an avid competitive golfer, wife, proud mother of grown children, and fur mom to 2 Shih Tzus. Now, on to this happy session with Gretchen Gordon. Gretchen, welcome to Bits About Books. I'm delighted to have you in the show and really want to talk about the book. I think it is so human.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate it.
Before we actually dive into the book, I would like to ask, when did you actually think that sales managers are becoming unhappy and you should fix that?
Oh boy, that's a great question, and it goes back to my personal experience of being a salesperson and then getting promoted into sales management because I had success as a salesperson, and finding myself in an uncomfortable spot, feeling overwhelmed, feeling unqualified, frankly, didn't know what to do, because what I did as a salesperson, I had been trained to be a salesperson, never been taught or trained to be a sales manager. And I disliked it so much that I asked to go back to being just a salesperson. So that goes back a lot of years, 20 plus years ago. And then ultimately, through the work that we do at my company, Braveheart Sales Performance, we have seen lots of unhappy sales managers. Again, people like myself who were very good as a salesperson and then got promoted into sales management, or sometimes someone who had been some form of operational manager but was asked to take over the sales team. And so feeling overwhelmed, unqualified, ill-equipped to know how to do what they need to do, and what they were doing wasn't working. Just telling people what to do wasn't working. Just expecting people to operate the way they operated to be, successful salespeople wasn't working. And so this kind of was a pet project, that I've been thinking about for a number of years.
I understand. I think the sales manager yo-yoing between being soft and being super hard, and trying to find a balance with the team. I think that's a problem that has not been solved, by the way. I mean,
Yeah.
people do that all the time, and I was just literally having a conversation with someone where one sales manager is driving his team up the wall, making them start at 4 o'clock in the morning because they're selling cross geography, and working till late in the evening and so on, and there's a lot of angst building there. Although they're getting some success, I mean, so they acknowledge that the success is coming, but it is becoming humanly difficult. Anyway, yeah, this is genuinely a challenge, and I think actually articulating that the sales manager needs to be happy, which means there is a balance, is critical. So what did you do? When did you actually start writing the book?
So I created the table of contents about 7 years ago, and then did nothing with it. So it was all up here. It was all in my head for a number of years. And then you're just busy, and it's always back there kind of brewing. I've written a lot for, articles and blogs and things like that. So it's always back there. But I finally decided at the end of last year, at the end of 2022, that 2023 was going to be the year to do it. Variety of reasons why that I don't need to get into. Our company was in a position where it made sense, had other people doing things, so I could afford the time to do it. So literally, it took me about 6 weeks from start to finish to write the book, to actually get all of the thoughts on paper and have the basic flow of the book, the different tables of contents, etc. And that happened in February and March of 2023. So it actually didn't take very long to write. I did take a couple days completely away from normal business and write, and then I had time blocked out most days for about 6 weeks to attend to the writing.
Wonderful. And did you do the workbook at the same time?
So the workbook, I had already created some of the materials in the workbook because we've used some of those in different formats with clients, with sales managers and sales teams in the work that we do. But I actually didn't create the entire workbook until much later. So once you write the book, then you go through the editing process, and that takes several weeks, and then the editing from a structural standpoint, I guess I would say. Then you go through the editing process of just the copy editing, so making sure that grammatical, typos and things like that, and then you do the other work, which is the creating the book cover and the content that's going to be in the front and the back of the book, and the formatting, getting it formatted so it could be on Kindle and also print. And it was during that time. So it was really this past summer. So it was well into, the book was already written when I put the workbook together in its final format.
Right. So going back to the book, and I want to delve a little more on the process. You obviously had your blogs and articles that you had written to support the thoughts in the book, right? The way you
Mhm.
structured. So when you said you had the structure out there 7 years back, was it actually in this section one, section two, section three kind of structure, or was it the more the topics?
It was more the topics, and I actually the fact that you brought up the articles and the blogs and things like that, I actually had in my mind originally that I could just go back and mine the information that I'd written, for years and years, and that seemed like that would be a really easy, quick way to write a book, but it wasn't. And I soon, I collected all of the old material and started to organize it in a certain fashion. And it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. So I scrapped that idea and just started writing from scratch. And the table of contents that I originally had, the book now somewhat mirrors that, but not completely. It's more the structure of getting the thoughts out and putting them in a cohesive manner so that they could be understood, and prioritizing some things over other things. So the concepts were began 7 years ago, but obviously the world's changed as well. So there's been a lot more added, and I restructured, I guess I would say, and put more current spin on things than what I originally came up with 7 years ago.
And I also would like to believe that you have more case studies, which you have seen, the customers that you work with and people that you have met over the last 7 years, which who also have been instrumental in adding to the narrative and the stories and the content.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always believed that, managers are a critical element of the success of a sales organization. But you're exactly right. Over the last several years, we've seen it even more so. And frequently, what happens is an organization will say, "Hey, I need my sales team to sell more or sell more efficiently, or whatever the problem is." And they frequently don't do a deep dive into management and leadership to determine, is it the salespeople, or is it the managers, and is it the leaders above the managers? And so it's become very apparent to me over, um, you know, uh, doing this line of work, being in this business for almost 15 years, it's become more and more apparent how critically important effective sales management and sales leadership is on the outcomes that the organization will experience. And we know it from the work that we do with clients that, you have to partner with them, you have to bring them into the fold. It's kind of this holistic approach. But even more so, it just feels like, and maybe it's also the pandemic, and there's been so much change, and the rate of change is not going to slow down. That for organizations to have success in sales growth, they really do need to pay attention to the effectiveness and the kind of impact that the managers are having on the sales organization. So I think maybe that's why, you're right. I've had the idea for a number of years, but it's become even more important over time. And that's probably what compelled me, like, this is the right time. Let's get the book written, because it's critically important. Things aren't going to slow down, that's for sure. Manager challenges are even greater than they ever have been because of remote work environment, hybrid work environment, and so it's critically important that they're successful.
Absolutely. Let's dive into the book. You have structured it in three different sections. The first section is about the key competencies. The second one is the tactical elements, and the last is the personal elements. Right.
Yeah, right.
So there must be a reason why you have structured in that way. So why did you think you should start with competencies first, and which, according to you, are the most critical competencies that sales managers need to focus on?
Well, well, first of all, I focused on the core competencies of, motivating, accountability, coaching, and hiring and onboarding first. And you mentioned the difficulty of being too soft or being too hard. And that is what we frequently see as well, which is, now I'm a sales manager. I got to tell people what to do and I got to hold them accountable. And, we're just going to, get out there and be warriors. And they ignore parts of what maybe made them successful as a salesperson, which is, they might have been hard charging, highly motivated, that type of thing, but also able to adjust and adapt to the client situation. So the same kind of elements are important from a management perspective. So I would say that while I have 4 core competencies listed in that first section, coaching, motivating, and accountability are nearly equal in importance. And what I mean by that is we know that even if you aren't an excellent coach, so you're not the best at it, but you're consistent in coaching your folks, your people will have more success. And we know this using data from Objective Management Group, actually, because we analyze salespeople. So they have to coach, and coaching is not telling them what to do. It's helping the other person become better than they otherwise would be if a coach wasn't involved in working with them. So coaching, critically important. And the reason that motivating is actually identified as the first core competency is that's kind of where it all starts. Is why does the salesperson get up in the morning and come to work and do this job? And not every salesperson is motivated by money. It used to be that the vast majority were motivated by money, but the world's changed, and that's not true anymore. So the sales manager who may have been motivated by money or maybe still is motivated by money, rewards, recognition, external elements, may be assuming that all the people on the sales team are just like them. And that is a fatal mistake. So they need to understand what makes each person on their team tick, and then help inspire them. They can't, quote unquote, motivate them, but they can inspire them by helping that person achieve their goals. So goal setting is a key component of keeping sales teams motivated and individuals on the sales teams motivated. So that's critically important, just to understand. If I've got a person who is extrinsically motivated, so rewards, recognition, money, then the comp plan might be enough, or the tote board that says you're leading the pack might be enough to keep them motivated. But if you're dealing with someone who is more intrinsically motivated or motivated by their own reasons, wants to be the best they can be, wants to take care of the client, wants the client to achieve their results, and they're not motivated by external elements, then you need to interact with them differently as their manager. You need to inspire them based on what matters to them, not just the compensation plan doing it. And then, so that's critically important. Then accountability, which is that, did the salespeople do what they were supposed to do? Did they do what they committed to doing? And are they doing enough of that? And that all flows from actually understanding the goals and what needs to, what does the salesperson want out of the job, and what does the company need the salesperson to do, and marrying those two sets of goals together, and then understanding what the individual needs to do to excel. That's really the accountability piece of it. So I always say there's only 2 reasons really why salespeople fail. One is because they don't do enough of the right stuff. So they don't do the right activities, behaviors. They don't do enough of it. They don't do it, or they don't do enough of it. And the other reason why salespeople fail is because they do enough of the things they're supposed to do, but they're not very good at it. And that points to coaching. motivating. But motivating is kind of at the center of that, and then you can set the expectations, and they can set their own commitments. And then the coaching piece of it is where the manager needs to come in and help the person do a better job of those activities that they need to be doing. So those three are critically important. And then obviously, if there is expansion that is required through hiring, the sales manager would do well to become proficient at attracting, interviewing, selecting, and onboarding. It'll make their job a lot easier. So that's why it's part of the core competencies. But if you're not hiring, you don't need to have that skill, obviously.
Right. It's time for a short break. Stay with us. After the break,
coaching has to do with caring about the individuals on the team and being more team focused than self focused. And you're right. Sometimes salespeople just do not have what we refer to as the mindset or the DNA, sales DNA, to be able to make that jump. So you have to analyze that first of all. And by and large, sales managers who were promoted into the role from the ranks of being a great salesperson, the ones that succeed do have that mindset of team. They do have the mindset of helping others achieve the goals, not doing it for them, not doing it instead of them, not needing to be in the limelight.
You are listening to a Business Podcast Network original. Podcasting is the fastest growing content marketing opportunity, which is untapped. We can help you craft your audio strategy and help leverage the wide reach and easy streaming capability that the smartphone penetration provides. It is easy, it is powerful and personal. Talk to us to find out how podcasting can help you build your brand and reach out to your targets like never before. Write to us at bpn@bizcast.in. That is bpn@bizcast.in. Business Podcast Network. Podcasts end to end.
Welcome back. I'm Shubhanjan Sarkar, your host for Bits About Books and founder of PitchLink, the buyer-seller engagement platform. Let's dive right back into the episode where we left it. I think before we move on to the other sections, I would like to touch upon two things here, both in terms of goal setting and coaching, because part of the goal setting, as you said, is about how do you want to improve yourself so that you can do your job better. And the other part of goal setting is how do you plan to achieve your targets.
Right.
And there has been enough talk, and you can touch upon it if you want, enough talk about how arbitrary the target settings are today.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one point I want you to touch upon, that how this arbitrary target setting by the organization is impacting the ability to do effective goal setting by the salesperson. That's one part of it. The other part is coaching is actually a very specialized skill, and how possible it is for a salesperson who has now been promoted as a manager to actually pick up that coaching skill.
Those are two great points. So the first one regarding goal setting, you're exactly right. A lot of companies just say, oh, we're going to increase X percent this year. And so your piece is this, and your piece is this, and your piece is that. What I'm a big believer in, and we address this in the book, is understanding at a deep level, at an intimate level, what makes the salesperson tick, and understanding what they're really working for. And frequently there are financial goals associated with that, right? I want to remodel my kitchen. I want to buy a boat. I want to retire in 10 years, whatever they are. So there are quantitative elements associated with that, right? I need to make this amount of money to be able to do those things. And what I'm a big believer in is understanding that, getting the salespeople to be honest about okay, I want to take an example. I want to remodel my kitchen. It's going to cost me $50,000 and I need to make this amount of money this year to be able to accomplish that. So I need to earn X in commissions above my salary. So then sharing that with the sales manager and having the sales manager go through a very particular process of setting those goals and why are they important, and then breaking that down to, okay, well, what do you need to do then, salesperson, to accomplish that, to make that amount of money? In my experience, in the nearly 15 years that I've been doing this type of work, and even before when I was a manager, what I learned is that almost always, so let's say 95% of the time, the salesperson will set a higher goal if they are tied into what they want out of the job and the money that it would produce. Or even, I want to be able to work 4 days a week and take 1 day off to volunteer. What does that look like? How do I make that happen? They will be far more engaged and bought into that than if the company says, here's your goal. And the salesperson's goal will 95% of the time be higher than what the company would have given them. Unless the company is just, the leaders of the company are just absurd about, how much more their sales team can produce. So that's why it's critically important, because you're right. A lot of times it is arbitrary how the goals are set, and it doesn't mean anything to the salesperson. So the manager can tie this all together by helping the salesperson understand that everything that they do, the phone calls they make, the outreach that they conduct, the sales conversations that they have, the better qualifying that they do to not waste their time with the wrong ones, can help them achieve their personal goal, not just the goal that the company has set out for them. So that's the first
Absolutely.
element.
Yeah.
And then with regard to coaching, you're exactly right. It is a skill, and you highlight one of the biggest issues which is, why I wrote the book, is the fact that salespeople generally are individual contributors, right? So they're doing their job. They only have to think about themselves to get the job done. Now we're saying, now you need to be a manager, and in my preferred structure, the sales manager does not continue to be the rainmaker, does not continue to have their own quota. So I am a firm believer that you have to be focused on selling, or you got to be focused on managing, because they are two very different skills. And sure, managers help salespeople. They might participate in closing opportunities, things like that. They might need to have their title in a meeting. I got to have the big wig in the meeting, that kind of thing. But by and large, coaching is separate than that. Coaching has to do with caring about the individuals on the team and being more team focused than self focused. And you're right. Sometimes salespeople just do not have what we refer to as the mindset or the DNA, sales DNA, to be able to make that jump. So you have to analyze that first of all. And by and large, sales managers who were promoted into the role from the ranks of being a great salesperson, the ones that succeed do have that mindset of team. They do have the mindset of helping others achieve the goals, not doing it for them, not doing it instead of them, not needing to be in the limelight. But frequently the reason the sales manager fails is because they can't or won't change their mindset around that. It can be changed, but the manager has to understand that the team goal achievement is far greater than the manager needing to be in the spotlight. So we do address that in the book, and that kind of gets into then some of the other elements or some of the other sections of the book, and in particular the last section, which is, talking about the individual and their beliefs. They have to be real, and to be successful as a sales manager, you got to be honest about, do I need to be in the spotlight, or do I want to help others be as successful as possible? And if it's the former, it might not be the right fit for the person. If it's the latter, then you can teach them the tactical components. You can teach them also how to be an effective coach. You can teach them the ins and outs of, managing the various duties of the job. And because they automatically come with some of the right mindset, and you can enhance that.
It's very interesting because, when I think about this entire sales process, a lot of the qualities that you want to see in a sales manager, you actually want to see in the salesperson as well, because that's the same mindset with which they should relate with the customer.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. You're exactly right. Is that same thought process of, I want the customer to succeed. What do I need to do to provide them our products, our services, or maybe our stuff doesn't help them get to their goals?
Yeah.
You're exactly right. It's the same concept. But unfortunately, I think what happens is many organizations treat salespeople differently. They treat them as if they're just, kind of cogs in a manufacturing process, and, just spit out the business. We prefer to work with clients, companies that actually care about helping the client or the customer get the outcomes they want. More of a complex sale than we don't, work with transactional, I guess I would say. Mm-hmm. So you're exactly right. Salespeople should come with some of that attitude, but I have to tell you that over the years of analyzing salespeople and sales managers, many of them do not possess truly those traits inherently, like, okay, I need to help the other person achieve. But the best salespeople do. And then it's just a matter of worrying about, a lot of salespeople who have that mindset and get promoted into sales management, may not have, they may not care as much about the other people on their team. They might be great at focusing on helping the customer achieve their goals, but there might be a disconnect between doing that versus helping the salespeople have that same mindset and be the best they can be.
So let's get into the tactical elements, and there are quite a few of them. So where do you think the core necessity lies? So obviously everybody cannot be good at all six tactical processes that you talk of, whether it's organization or compensation or pipeline. Maybe compensation is not so much in their control also. So where do you think a sales manager who wants to actually deliver and ensure that the team wins, where they should focus?
So they must focus on pipeline management, and they must focus on it in the correct way. And so I would say, really two things in this aspect. Pipeline management is not something that should be done in a sales meeting, in a group sales meeting. That is so old school. And I know tons of executives and leaders out there that believe it. And, it creates a sense of urgency if, Bob over here is talking about all these great deals that he's got in his pipeline, then that's going to inspire John to, go do more. It doesn't work that way. That's why pipeline management has to be disconnected from the sales meeting, and pipeline management is a one-on-one thing. And it really morphs into coaching, right? It's part of the coaching conversation. It's part of it's kind of a combination of accountability and coaching. So do they have enough in their pipeline? Okay, they got a bunch of stuff in their pipeline. But if we focus too much on the pipeline as managers, then the salespeople think the only thing that matters is getting stuff into the pipeline. So they're going to fill the pipeline with a bunch of fluffy, stuff that's never going to close. So that's the accountability piece, right? Do you have enough in your pipeline, but is it the right are they the right opportunities in the pipeline? So that's a one-on-one conversation where the manager can be coaching the individuals to be more scrutinizing, be more have a perspective of disqualifying opportunities instead of trying to get everything into the pipeline and qualify it. And that's a coaching mechanism. So managing the behaviors around the pipeline, and then having the correct sales meeting cadence collectively. The sales meeting is, in my mind, terribly underutilized in a lot of organizations. A sales meeting should be inspiring, should be a time when the salespeople want to come and share what's going on and get help from their peers and have collaboration about how they might be able to, move an opportunity along, as opposed to being a boring meeting where we just talk about product. That's not what it's for. It's sales meetings should be regular cadence of helping individuals collectively get better. And so that's why I would say, of the tactical, master those. And then the other things are elements of, well, how do I deal with, the rest of my job, the reports, and how do I manage up, with my boss, and all those different components. I would say that as a manager moves along in their career, they absolutely need to become proficient at all of those elements. But you're right, they aren't going to be that way initially. So let's focus on the things that will actually move the needle. And it's the core competencies, it's the coaching, accountability, motivating that drive everything else. But then from a daily tactical, what do I need to do with the pipeline and what do I need to do with sales meetings, get those things, and let's grow from there.
Yeah, before we move to the next section, what are the points that you are highlighting in the sales process bit?
Yeah, so the sales process is and I consider pipeline management and sales process to be cousins of each other. So if you have a repeatable sales process, then you can make sure that the pipeline is quality. Because the pipeline will mirror the process. You're going to go through stages in the pipeline, and the process is going to be, okay, I need to ask these questions. I need to find out these things. Before I move along in the process, I need to know this. And you're exactly right that it's critically important to make sure that there is a, repeatable sales process, because then that allows the manager also to coach to it. Did you forget to do this? Did you, what did they say when you asked this question? Those types of, that's kind of, and I'm, thinking about it, moving along in a continuum, because it's really part of the pipeline process as well.
The line between marketing and sales is blurring. And the reason is that the whole idea that the sales team will be able to identify opportunities which are valid today without substantial work being put into actually working with these prospects as they were going through their buying process, and they got ready today, but this process had started maybe 6, 8, 10 months before.
Right.
Internally in the organization, and that's what typically the marketing job used to be. Do you see that we need to sort of realign the thought process of the sales process to more understanding of the buying process?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think obviously we touch on the book on like the organizational structure. So should you have full cycle salespeople that do prospecting and closing the business? And, however the leads come in, if that's marketing, if that's cold calling by, the salesperson, or should you have kind of an SDR, BDR, and then like an AE that closes the business, SDR, BDR, generating appointments, let's say, and
Yeah.
they're intermingled. The marketing and the sales should be intermingled. There's most recently been some things I've read. And we probably all are exhausted by SDRs calling, nonstop and and sending cutesy emails out and things like that. So obviously, the
Yeah.
marketing and the sales are intermingled in that. It used to be very clear cut. You're right. Marketing would spark interest, maybe, create awareness, and then spark
Yeah.
some interest, maybe. And then it kind of sales kind of took over and caused a prospect to prefer you and then buy. Now you have to have those things aligned. So you need to have marketing and sales processes. So maybe there's a prospecting process that is specifically a combination of maybe sales and marketing. It might be live reach out, it might be emails, it might be social posts, it might, all those things. And an individual an individual salesperson might be involved at some points along the way, calling, whether they're an SDR or full cycle salesperson, calling and trying to have a conversation, using, LinkedIn, not just having standardized messages go out, but actually having personal engagement on LinkedIn, for instance. And then, the sales process. So if you think about, let's say, a prospecting process, maybe different from a sales process. When you have a live, interested other party, then the true sales process begins, in that now we're thinking about what questions do I need to ask. So to your point, aligning it with the buyer. The buyer wants to get out there and do their research, and let's make it easy for them to think about us. And then when we get into the real nitty gritty, what we really need to be understanding is what are they trying to accomplish, instead of
Yeah.
telling them this is what we can do for you, which I think of that more like just a prospecting or marketing process.
True, true. Let's move to the last section where you're talking about the person. And I think I somehow feel that this could be the most critical one, because if this is not right, then neither the competency development nor the tactical will actually pan out.
Yeah, you're exactly right. No, you're exactly right. And I considered putting this at the front end of the book, that making it the first section, but um, I felt like the book might be rejected because it felt like it was too soft or too, touchy feely. But it is a critical element that managers need to understand is, what are my beliefs and what do I need to be thinking about? And is it in here, is it in my head that is causing me to not be as successful as I could? And frequently, we touched on it earlier. This concept of being promoted from sales to sales management can produce a lot of different things. One is it can produce hey, just do it the way I told you to, the way I did it. Do it the way I did it. And I'm just telling you, it works. That's why we didn't go on the front end, because I'm not sure that a lot of sales managers who were successful salespeople would buy off on that until they understood what coaching really is, accountability, motivating, and how that can make their lives easier. Then additionally, it can create this imposter syndrome, which I address in the book as well, which is this, the concept of these were my peers. I was buddies with all these salespeople, and now I'm their boss. And inside of me, I'm thinking, oh, what do I have any different than they do? I was just lucky, or I worked harder, or I got the better leads. How do I separate now and rise up to being someone who wants to help them be successful, and I'm not just their buddy anymore, and we're not going to commiserate about the policies of the company anymore. So it's a critical element, but my concern in when I structured the book the way I did, with that being the last section, is I wanted the individuals that would read the book to get, okay, this is how I do the job. And we're basically building a relationship. I'm building a relationship with them, that they trust me, that I'm giving them good, solid advice. And it's not just, this isn't just some psychology project, but then
Sure.
they might be open more to going, yeah, you're right. It really is. I need to get my head right if I'm going to be effective at this. And if someone gets to the end of the book, which we know everyone has very short attention spans, and that's why the book is short as well, and sales managers are no different, then they're probably really serious. And if they download the workbook, they're probably really serious about being the best sales manager they can be. And that's really where that's hard work. That mindset work is harder than the rest of it. So that's why it's also at the end of the book, because people who are truly committed are going to get all the way through the book. They're going to download the workbook. They're going to do, they're going to use the tools and do what the book suggests. And so they're going to be in a better spot. And I could probably write a book alone about coaching. I could write a book alone about the mindset. But I kind of wanted to put it all in one, package, so people could take what they need and move through the book and become the best they could possibly be.
I think that makes complete sense, and I also see. I completely understand why you want to put this at the end. However, I think the real win of this book, to my mind, is that you're bringing back the human element into the discourse, because we are talking so much about AI and automation and generating AI generated generative AI and so on and so forth. And by the way, I mean, that in the sales tech landscape over the last 5 years that Nicholas Kochowski is tracking it, it has gone from like 200 products to 2,000 products, right? So it is a lot of automation, and I think focusing on the fact that a sales manager should be happy, I think makes a lot of sense.
Well, I appreciate that. And I feel like happy is better, right? If we're
Yeah.
happy, our brain is going to be at peace, and we're going to be able to execute those human elements better. We're not going to be so stressed
Yeah.
out and thinking about, well, what do I do now? What do I do now? What do I do now? Just connect and help the sales team accomplish the goals, and everybody will be happier.
Bits About Books is brought to you by PitchLink, the buyer-seller engagement platform. PitchLink makes buying easy by enabling high-quality engagement between buyers and sellers through its presentation and discussion modules. Sellers create customized sales narratives using sales collaterals and personal videos, and reach out to prospects through a non-intrusive, buyer-qualified engagement. PitchLink requires no installation or download and holds the entire repository of sales collaterals and buyer-seller conversations. Talk to us to know more about how you can engage with customers without intrusion. Call us on 99021 631 32.
Gretchen, thank you so much. I really appreciate your coming on the show and taking time to talk to us about your book, The Happy Sales Manager. And I think your readers will find a lot of value in this conversation that we have had.
Well, I appreciate the forum to talk about it because, as you could tell, I'm not lacking for thoughts and perspectives on this topic. So I really appreciate it, and I appreciate that you got the core of bringing back the human element because that's really what we're talking about here. You're exactly right. Use AI to help you do your job better, but don't ignore the human side of it.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you.
We have a fantastic lineup over the next couple of episodes with great conversations on breakthrough books. Subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you do not miss a single episode. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for being with us today on Bits About Books, where we talk to authors about breakthrough books on sales, marketing, and business. We hope this conversation helped inform and motivate as we all navigate a rapidly changing business environment. For us, these are enlightening conversations enriched with knowledge and expertise. We encourage you to go out and buy the book to learn firsthand and implement some of the great ideas we discussed today. We hope to have you with us again in the next exciting episode of Bits About Books. If you liked what you heard, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast platforms like iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts from, and give us a rating while you are at it.
This Bizcast original podcast is produced for PitchLink, the next generation buyer-seller engagement platform, where the mission is to make buying easy. Hosted by Subhanjan Sarkar and produced by Rajiv Aditya. See you next time and have a wonderful day.